The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to another edition of Home Field Advantage. She is Teresa Autrey. She's with Keller Williams. She does wonderful work. 294-4210, 294-4210. If she does not answer the phone, she's a good texter too. I like when people tell me, just text me, because sometimes I don't want to call anybody else because I'm on the phone in the car or whatever like that. It's easy to text and you can get in touch with her that way. 294-4210, area code 205. So keep that in mind. First of all, what's going on in the industry of real estate? This is a show about real estate. We got some great emails, info@tonykurreradio.net, info@tonykurreradio.net. We'll get to as many as we possibly can here in the next 20 or 30 minutes. But how are you doing? Everything good?
Everything's good. I think today we're going to talk a little bit about the do's and don'ts of open houses after we read our fan mail. I love the fan mail.
Yeah, I do.
And also we'll touch on a couple of different things. But remember, if you like seeing us, like, subscribe, share, and let us know your thoughts and questions and how we can help you. Okay.
We have our own YouTube channel, by the way, the Home Field Advantage YouTube channel. Make sure you put Teresa Autrey or Tony Kurre Radio, because I'm sure there's another podcast out there somewhere called Home Field Advantage. Good thing is we're in the top 10% of all podcasts in the country. And it's because we have great shows and give you great information. And Teresa is the best when it comes to the real estate business. All right, info@tonykurreradio.net. Barbara in Birmingham said recently she got into real estate as a part-time gig. Is it possible to do real estate part-time? And, I think a lot of people, we see a lot of, and I'm not painting a picture on a broad brush. I mean, maybe I am. It seems like a lot of women, raise the children, father's out doing a thing. And all of a sudden, I know a lot of friends of mine who are women who get in the real estate business in their late 40s, early 50s, because they can get a real estate license relatively easy. You have to do some homework and you have to pay a little bit to get it done, but you can actually go out there and start selling homes. But really, it's not that easy. Talk about doing real estate at a part-time gig. Is it even a possibility?
Well, you can do real estate part-time, but I like to use this terminology. It's an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
I was telling someone not long ago, they were like, well, why would you think about something else? And I was just like, well, a lot of years I spend $50,000 before you make a penny because got all these fees and licenses and you're also expected to have a lifestyle and be presented and proper and modern. You can't be dated. You can't be all this other stuff. So a lot of times it's one of those things. It's kind of like men who want to be John Daly. I mean, you might can golf, but I don't know what to tell you. It's an expensive habit. So
I would think just the mileage alone would be, because I mean you're constantly driving around, and quite frankly, it's not a 9-to-5 job, right? I mean, you have a lot of people that.
Well, and I'll give you just for instance, because this is what I do on my taxes is I put around 65,000 miles a year on a car. I go through at least a set and a half of tires, and you say, well, what's a half? And I go through about every 9 months getting tires. I probably get 65,000 miles a year. I could never lease a vehicle. In fact, when I do get a vehicle, I just look at it as a depreciating asset because of the mileage, the oil changes, the tires, everything has got to be, proper and safe. And, in order to do that, it's just like selling real estate legally. Yeah. You can have insurances, you got to have this. And, there's fees and licenses. I'm sorry, I didn't realize the phone had moved.
You're perfect. I was just going to ask you, great minds think alike. Continue. Perfect.
But that's just kind of now I will say that if you have a lot of money, a lot of people do it as a write-off because they want the mileage, they want the lunches and the dinners and all that good stuff. I'm sorry, I put up Do Not Disturb. And
that's perfect.
There you go. This happened.
Yeah, there you go. There's your regular picture. Now I need you to get back onto you. There you go. No, I think what a lot of people do is I think they get involved. Maybe they've done something and someone's like, you'd be really good at selling this house. Or maybe they've done a for sale by owner once and they did really well at it. they made some money that, you know what, I could do this. And they think to themselves, I'm going to do it part-time. And then if it gets some traction, then I can take it on full-time. And I think a lot of people do that, and a lot of things, and it normally doesn't work out that way. I mean, I see.
With any profession, you got to be dedicated, and every profession, you got your ups and your downs. But I will say that raising my children as a single mom, certainly there were challenging times where I had to outsource and do federal contracts, work with divorcee couples, things like that, because you got to do what it takes. But I would always say that, it's one of those things. It's an expensive hobby, but, do what you need to do.
Yeah. Randy in Northport wants to know, he's driven by several different areas up in the Tuscaloosa area where they're building new complexes. We've seen that, where we've seen builders and it'll be a sign said, 18 lots available, and there's not even a piece of wood up yet. And wants to know, how can you be part of the real estate business by getting involved with builders? And this is a perfect question for you because you already work with a lot of builders. But I mean, if you're in real estate and you're a real estate person and you have a builder in front of yours and he's building 18 homes, it'd be really nice if you could be the real estate person for all of those. Is that a possibility, or has that normally work?
Well, I negotiate mine out. Again, I'm sorry about the camera. I'm not sure what's happening, but
no problem.
What I realized is I negotiate mine out. Sometimes I may take a flat fee on the backside, and I'll use that and flip the whole situation. And they say, we're going to use you on every home. That's what I would do. But now I'm a licensed realtor. I have something to bring to the table. And I always tell people, you got time, talent, or money. That's what you got to give. So if you don't really know anything about it, you may want to partner with someone and say, hey, can we? And a lot of people, they're not going to partner with you. They don't want you upsetting their apple cart. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of people will do is say, hey, come in and you can shadow me, and maybe we'll split the first deal 50-50 or something like that. Or you could be a silent partner. I've had other people say, I would just want to be a silent partner. And they would just put up money and wait for their checks to come in as the development progressed.
I want to go back to a question, because you just gave me another question about starting the real estate. And again, I don't know how many realtors are out there, but it seems like there's just so many people that, there really are. And I went through a friend when I sold my last home. You and I had known each other, but I wasn't realizing what you've done, or else I would have had you probably sell my last home. But you can do the math and see what someone's going to make on a home based on the value of that home. If you are just getting into the business, a lot of people think, all I got to do is sell a couple of $1 million homes and I'm going to be fine. Well, good luck. First of all, you got people that are selling $1 million homes. They want great real estate people. They want great realtors that are going to get them top dollar. And they want somebody who's probably got some equity in the tank too. They've been doing it for a little while. But when you do get started, is it always best to start low and start with those flipper type of homes, $150,000, $200,000 homes, or should you go shoot for the moon?
Well, this is what you're going to probably laugh because a lot of people don't know this. But when I first got in it, I lived in like a mobile home on land. It was new. It was nice. But my first listing was a for sale by owner, $326,000 house in Brook Highland. Wow. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. And this was 29 years ago. So to me, it was a lot for me. And those people ended up being my client over years and years. And I made my highest check off those same people, the highest check I've ever made in the industry. So I think first, if you're looking to help someone in your heart and you know it educational wise and you have integrity, then yes, you can help anyone at any stage. But what I didn't realize I was doing at the time, but I guess I realize now, is not only did I help them, I helped their daughters both when they graduated. Then when they ended up getting married and expanded their family, I ended up helping them. I've literally helped like 3 generations before. So that's what you really want to do, is build those relationships. And here today, gone tomorrow, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah, we've had the same real estate person. My ex actually did, and that's true because you're going to own 7 or 8 or 9 different homes in your lifetime, and if you can sell them that first one, then you probably. And it's like a lot like that with car dealerships too. If you get a good car, you're probably going to go back to that dealership. Info TonyCurryRadio.net 294-4210 is their number. Teresa Autrey with Keller Williams. Randy in Southside wants to know if you've ever sold a haunted house. And have you ever sold a home where you actually had to drop the price because of what people knew about that particular home? I lived in a home, I think we brought this up, down on 839th Street South, where a guy actually passed away. He had cancer. It wasn't a murder or anything, but he died in that home. And for some reason, people don't want to buy homes if someone's passed away in them. I get that. But you can also, I'm not saying work on the price if you find out, but have you ever had a situation where you had a home and had a bad rap going into it?
Yes, actually two. One was that it was in a rough part of town and it was habitually broken into. And it was a rough home to sell. And during that home, I ended up walking into my first robbery when I was going to check on the house. And then I also saw my first homeless man laying in the street. And it was a rough house. And we ended up finally just dropping it to rock bottom because the economy had turned, you know, and Birmingham went from being like usually in the top 20 to now in the top 4 or 5 for crime rate. So it really affected that area. And so that's one. The other one was I have a house, and this is going to sound awful. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. But there's been 3 deaths in it.
Wow. Okay.
Now, deaths don't bother me because the way I see it, they're dead. What are they going to do? But one, it was, I mean, let's think about it. But one, it was it was actually the grandchild was in a wreck, and then the grandmother, and then the child. So over about a 15-year span, it was the 3 different people passed away.
Wow, that's kind of creepy. And did you sold that house, I'm assuming?
I did. And what I did is listen, I just said, we've done the title, you have to disclose if it's harmful or something of real bad.
Do you have to disclose if a house had someone die in it?
Not if they died, but if it's like a hazardous situation, like say if somebody came in and murdered the whole family, well, you would have to disclose that because you don't know if the people are going to come back thinking that the new residents will be that.
Really?
But also if there's like a hazard, like if someone blew up a gas stove or, something like that, you got to notify them. But if it's not a hazardous or anything like that, no, you don't have to notify them.
All right. Info TonyCurryRadio.net. Another Teresa in Jacksonville, Florida. She wants to know, are pools really a good thing for selling homes? She's looked at several homes in the Jacksonville area, and obviously you have to have a pool if you're down in Florida. I get that. But they're also a lot to maintain. It's weird because I would think that having a swimming pool would be a selling point for a home. And I guess it is if it's really magnificent and taken care of. But at the same time, a lot of people don't want to have to deal with that. Can you talk about whether having a pool is a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head a few shows back when you were talking about landscaping and you said, if the outside looks good, usually the inside looks good.
Yeah. And,
there's an exception to every rule. Same thing about this. If the people take care of the pool and the pool is nice, then yes. If the people do not take care of the pool, or if the pool is an above ground that's very, very dated, you may want to look at different options. But a lot of people say, no, they're a liability. Some people say, no, they're an asset. It really depends on the individual, and think about it like this. It depends on what your plans are. It's very specific. A lot of people with small children would live on a busy interstate. They don't want a pool, So that's just some of the things that we've noted throughout. However, you're right. In certain locations, I know that I have a friend in Brentwood, California, and if you do an aerial above his house, you can see every house comes with 2 things, a tennis court and a pool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would love to have a pool. My kids would love to have a pool. I used to want a motorcycle too. I don't want a motorcycle anymore. They are expensive, but I would say you don't ever want to move into a house because of the pool. I know some people go, it's got a swimming pool. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But what about the rest of the house? Well, it's a fixer-upper, but the pool's awesome. I'm like, okay, well, unless you're planning on swimming, and being on a floaty for 14 hours a day, you're not going to get your money back out of that. But a lot of people look at that, unless they're pool people and they have to have a house with a pool, it's probably not going to be beneficial. I know updated bathrooms and updated kitchens and stuff are certainly more selling points. Teresa Autrey, 294-4210, 294-4210. We're doing emails. We'd love to get yours. info@TonyCurryRadio.net. We get a ton of them here, which is great for the show. That means a lot of people, of course, are listening, and we really, really appreciate that. We do have some emails about open houses, and you wanted to talk about that, and I'll go right here. I'm out in the Russell Wood area. There's a home right down the street, and I will stop at any open house. If there's an open house, I'll stop it. Even if I'm not going to, because I just want to look at other people's houses. I want to look at other people's houses. When I see an open house, it was my belief, based on my prior engagements with real estate agents, that that we're having a difficult time selling this home. And having an open house is a pain in the ass because it takes all day. It takes 3 or 4 hours of a real estate person's time, and it's usually like the back surgery to me. I've heard it equated to like back surgery, like it's the last thing you want to have to do in order to sell a home. There's a home down the street that's going for like $450. It's overpriced. There's no backyard. It's a really cool looking house. But the house on either side of it aren't worth that. And they've had it open a house 3 weekends in a row. And that to me tells me that you're really having a difficult time selling that home. And I'm going to sit back and wait for the price to drop. If in fact I was interested in that. Right or wrong, in an open house is good ideas.
Well, I love open houses personally, because anytime you can get someone physically in the home, you can just be quiet. And if you've done your job and your client has trusted you, then you should be at a point where it basically sells itself. A couple of do's and don'ts for realtors. Don't try to cover anything up. It's all going to come out. And the last thing you want to do is, throw your client or any other client under the bus by saying something's this or that. The other thing is,
when you say cover up, what are you talking about?
Like if you said, oh, the water heater's 20 years old. If they say, well, when was the water heater done? Well, you don't say, well, I'm not sure, probably a year or two ago. No one is 20 years old.
Yeah.
You just be honest. And the same thing with clients. If you're working with an agent, just be honest up front. We have to collaborate. So I always just say, hey, are you working with anyone? Yeah, sure. No problem. And that's to save us both integrity and both ethic issues, The other thing is, I always tell the clients, the sellers, number one, you don't need to be there because your cup of tea is not everybody's cup of tea.
There you go.
And, my uncle just passed away. Her house is on the market, and she went with a realtor that lives on her street. And I will say, this is going to offend some people when I say it like this. I do not believe in let's price it high and test the market. You have got one shot to have your neighbors walk through it, to have the public to walk through it. You have got one shot for that house to go on the market to get as much money in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort as possible. Mm-hmm. And that window is very narrow. And if you miss that window, you have shot yourself in the foot. And there's no coming back from that. There is no coming back. Do not do crappy open houses. Do not do crappy open houses. I don't care if you've got a partner with someone. Make sure you do everything you can for this open house, whether it's $250,000 or $2,050,000. The second thing is advertise. Know who you're advertising to. Are you doing this for agents or are you doing this for the client? And then the third thing for the client and the seller is put away your money, your prescriptions, your jewelry, and any weapons, and anything of value. Make sure you just get that out of sight.
I didn't even think about
and if
that.
Something is not for sale, like if something does not go with the house, I literally take and print a sticker, and it might be, say it's like a beautiful picture frame, and they're going to replace that picture or that window frame with something else, then I would say something equitable or comparable value. Better than, but never less than. And we'd put a note up there, this does not stay. All kind of things wouldn't stay, but you get the drift.
Yeah, this may be a question for a real estate, not so much a real estate person, but an insurance person. A house in our neighborhood burned about 4 or 5 weeks ago. A 3-3. It was right down the road. Fire department showed up. No one was home at the time. Unfortunately, there were several animals in the house that didn't make it. And it's right, like you look up the street and it's right in the cul-de-sac. So you can't miss it. It's the center home in the cul-de-sac. There were 3 or 4 homes on either side of it. And obviously it got torched. It didn't burn to the ground. It's still a shell of the house itself. And I was walking with my kids because we walk past it every time we walk. And I know that cannot be good for a neighborhood. It doesn't make the neighborhood look good, but I also understand it takes some time to get the insurance company involved in that, whether they want to raise it, whether it's unfixable. You can't fix it. It's not like you can put you're going to have to mow it down and build something else. How much does that affect the homes in a neighborhood immediately? Obviously you don't want to sell. If you were putting your house in the market and the one next door to you just burned down to the ground, you probably want to wait. But then you're talking about waiting, another year before you can rebuild something. And I know everyone's got different insurance policies. I know in some cases they don't rebuild at all. They just knock it down and it just sits there. They take the insurance money, they move somewhere else. But can you talk about how that affects a neighborhood?
Well, in theory, it's not supposed to affect a neighborhood, but in reality, I mean, how can you not see a burned down house?
Sure.
And I had one in one of my subdivisions after I left the subdivision. It had burned down and it took a year to clear it because they couldn't get the permits from the city. It wasn't that they were doing it on purpose. Nobody does that on purpose. And, but when they came back, it took about a year and finally they just sold it to an investor who did a tear down and built a new product there.
Okay. Typically, and again, this is an insurance question, but you're probably going to know it. Are typically people insured for what their house is worth? I mean, it's house insurance is one of those things where you just get it, you got to forget about it. But I mean, if my house burns, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if my house burns down, am I covered? I mean, am I getting enough to build another home that's comparable to the one I'm in, or are most people not covered for that?
I don't think most people are covered. Now, I could be wrong. But I call it repair and replace. So say you have a home since 1996 and it burns down. You think that lumber is the same price as it was 1996, or we got some new lumber today?
Exactly.
And for you to build, that repair or replace, just like the termite bond. So you have to think about those kind of things when it comes into play. And then you got to think about your content insurance. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like insurance companies make more money when they don't pay a claim, but what do I know? Sure.
Well, that's no doubt. Jeff and Betsy, we got time for,
well, I wanted to do one thing before we left here today, because this is very important to me. Number one is a mental health awareness month, and I didn't realize that. So please, if you need some support, reach out. Remember, we're bigger than this moment that we're in. The second thing is I have a client stuck in Israel, and I couldn't get in touch with them for several days. And finally, when I did get in touch with them, I could hear the background. It was horrific. It was terrible. And in one day, I witnessed like a miracle. And then I heard these war sounds going on in the background. And so if we could just come together and pray as a nation that maybe my client gets back safe, and also in addition to that the people of Israel are protected from everything that's happening. So that's just really all.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. If you have any more email questions, we got a ton of them. We'll get to them every single week. info@TonyCurryRadio.net, info@TonyCurryRadio.net. Or if you have some show ideas, you have some questions, throw those at us, and we'll ask the expert, Teresa Autrey, who's been doing it for 30 years. Keller Williams, 294-4210, 294-4210. I love you, and thank you for all you do. You're the best. We'll talk next week.
God bless. Bye-bye.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.